Hello everyone and welcome back to another Dare to Game video. Today we are reviewing the brand new PC enhanced version of Metro Exodus. If the game is new to you, just know that going forward that the game was originally released back in 2018, and this version is a graphically enhanced version that has been updated to take full advantage of modern graphics card technologies to really utilize their ray tracing abilities. One last thing before we get into the meat of this review, I do want to point out that this game has been gifted to me by Deep Silver, so I did not pay for it. However, as usual, this will not impact my review beyond the obvious value for gameplay argument. So just because I feel like there are a lot more people out there that have not played this game than there are who have, I will be reviewing the whole game as well as the changes that the PC Enhanced Edition brings. That way, if you play on PlayStation or Xbox and you would still like to play this game, most of what I say herein will still be relevant to you. So, what is Metro Exodus? Well, it is the third installment in the Metro video game trilogy based on Dmitry Glukhovsky's novels, and this game follows the events of Metro 2033 and Metro Last Light. So, this is just the latest installment of a series of games. Does that mean that you need to play the others to enjoy or understand this one? Absolutely not. While I do enjoy the other games and find them well worth a play, this game stands on its own and is deeply enjoyable as a standalone story. In fact, it only references anything from the previous games once or maybe twice, and it doesn't impact the story in any meaningful way. Metro Exodus is an epic, story-driven first-person shooter from 4A Games that blends deadly combat and stealth with exploration and survival horror, all in one of the most immersive game worlds ever created. And if that sounds like I'm blowing it out of proportion, let me assure you I am not. When I received this game, I did a complete replay from start to finish, and really took my time to drink the world in, and it is by far one of the most immersive gaming experiences that I have ever had. The world feels perfectly balanced for the setting. Most post-apocalyptic game worlds swing way too hard in either direction, either feeling packed to the brim with enemies to the point where it seems unrealistic that there could be so many monsters roaming around, or the other way, and they end up feeling bland, empty, and way too safe to exist in that post-apocalyptic setting. Metro Exodus hits the sweet spot, where the world has threats, and you are likely to run into them, but if you're careful, you can usually avoid them. See, in this game, the antagonists are not usually the objective. This is a road trip game, where you need to get from point A to point B. The antagonists and monsters serve the prescribed role in literature. They try to prevent you, the hero, from achieving what you want. So as the title Exodus would suggest, this game leaves behind the cramped confines of Moscow's metro system after the prologue, and takes you on an epic, continent-spanning journey across post-apocalyptic Russia, in what I believe is the greatest Metro adventure yet. This is not an open-world game, but it is far more open-world than previous Metro titles, and each region you go to is entirely open-world. So when you arrive in a new region, you can explore, gather resources, complete side missions, and upgrade your gear to your heart's content, all while avoiding the main story if that is what you want. This system is one of the things that makes Metro Exodus so great in my opinion, as this allows us to explore 5 very different regions, all with their own unique advantages and existential threats. And given that the game takes place over the better part of a year, we get to experience various seasons, from the frozen subarctic winters of Russia that remind me so much of home, to the scorching heats of summer in the desert, and the mild spring and autumn that brings so much hope for our wandering adventurers. As I just hinted, the game has a non-linear story, meaning that you can run through guns a-blazing, or you can take each area with the utmost caution, fully utilizing the game's stealth system, which I quite enjoy. Stealth in this game is simple and logical. Typically speaking, if an enemy cannot see or hear you, you're safe. However, this doesn't mean hiding behind a tuft of grass right next to the enemy. The enemy can see you if you're in their direct line of sight, especially during the day. So deciding when you want to complete an objective will usually include deciding whether or not you want to go at night, so that you are harder to spot and most humans may be asleep, or if you want to go during the day, when it's easier for you to see and you are less likely to run into many of the game's creatures, which are far more active at night. It's the little tactical decisions like that that help to make Metro feel as real as it does. And speaking of how real the game feels, a good portion of the game's immersion comes from the user interface. Namely, there isn't one. There is no heads-up display to show you your health, and no waypoints on a compass that show you exactly where to go, and on top of that, there is no complex menu system that encompasses every bit of information in the game. No, when you are playing Metro Exodus, it's just you looking into the unobstructed world of post-apocalyptic Russia. The map is actually a physical map that your main character carries around. And while you will have objectives marked on it, and you do have a compass on your arm that you can reference, and there is even a marker on the map to show you where you are at any given time, it never feels spoon-fed. All of this while still being a game that is deeply enjoyable to navigate. Again, we hit a perfect balance between feeling like a chore and being so easy that it's not fun. The shooting mechanics in this game are tight. As a self-described first-person shooter, this game delivers. And I don't want you to think that this game is a sneaky stealth game. No, while stealth is an option, and many times the better option, it is just that, an option. If you want to, you can use the many guns of this game to blast your way through Russia, killing basically everyone in your way. If running and gunning is your cup of tea, well then, I'm glad to tell you that, brother, that is an option. I know this because I decided to take this approach for one of the regions in the game, just to see how much fun it was. And spoiler alert, it was a lot of fun. The guns all sound and feel like actual weapons. While being deeply customizable, literally every part is interchangeable, they all have very unique benefits, as well as some drawbacks. For example, there's a shotgun that holds tons of rounds and deals a lot of damage. However, reloading this takes quite some time, and when you overheat it, it's actually prone to jam, so you better have a backup weapon. Or on the other hand, there's an air-powered rifle that is great for silent takedowns, and it shoots steel ball bearings, which is actually one of the easiest ammo types to keep yourself stocked up on. But that gun needs to be pumped up after shooting it for a bit, so it's always a tactical choice for what you are going to use in any given situation. But don't let me trick you into thinking that this is just another Doom or Rage clone run-and-gun shooter, because it's not. You have an inventory of gameplay mechanics that you will need to keep in mind throughout the game, so you don't find yourself trapped in a corner with no option except death. You will need to charge your battery to keep your light working. You'll need your lighter to burn away cobwebs to access rooms more easily and keep the nasty spiders off of you. Maintaining your gas mask and filters is absolutely essential, as much of the world is toxic and not breathable. Be sure to keep your weapons clean and to upgrade them as you find new attachments throughout the world, which should make them more reliable and hopefully more efficient at what you need them for. All of this will include crafting, so you will always need to keep your eyes peeled for resources, which will be essential throughout the entire game. And lastly, throughout the world, you will find hidden camps and refuges that you can craft gear at, upgrade your equipment, and rest. So always look for these, and remember where they are just in case you find yourself up a creek without a paddle. And lastly, we can talk about the story, and since I've made it this far into the review without spoiling anything, I will continue to do so here. The story is non-linear for the most part, and as I said, you can go about it at your own pace. However, there are a few things to keep in mind. One is that there are different endings for the game based on how you act throughout it. Without spoiling anything, I will say that if the option is presented to knock someone out instead of killing them, it's usually the better option, if you care about what ending you get, that is. But I won't say any more on that account because the story is just too good and I really don't want to spoil it for you. The stories all feel natural, and there are no cutscenes, and the exposition comes down to how much time you actually want to listen to a character, because you can actually just leave basically whenever you want. So how much you get out of it is entirely up to you. Personally, I listened to almost every single conversation the whole way through, because the story was just that good. No one in this game feels fake, so all of their stories are interesting and compelling. So honestly, the story of this game fits perfectly in the world that it is set in. As far as length goes, the main story of Metro Exodus is approximately a 20 to 30 hour experience, depending on how much crafting and exploration you decide to engage in. And on top of that, there are actually 2 story-based expansion DLCs, which I've not played yet, but I am really looking forward to after experiencing the game again. So that does it for the review of the game as a whole. Now I want to talk specifically about the PC Enhanced Edition separately. And honestly, it makes a huge difference gameplay-wise. The world looks way better this way, and feels even smoother than before, which I didn't think would even be possible given how buttery smooth the vanilla game was. But if you played the original game back in 2018, trust me, you can really feel and see the difference in the Enhanced Edition. All of the game's emissive surfaces have been fully ray-traced to give full area shadow effects. The number of ray-traced light bounces is literally infinite, making it feel very, very real. In addition to this, atmosphere and transparent surfaces all received ray-traced bounced lighting. So glass, mirrors, ice, the surface of the water, all of it looks so much more like real life than nearly any other game I've played to this day. On top of that, every single light source has been redone, with a full ray-traced lighting model support that includes color bleeding. So that means fire actually looks like fire, and lights up an area like fire would. The same can be said for desk lamps or ceiling lights or even outdoor lights. The area will look entirely different under the gaze of your flashlight than the small flickering flame of your lighter or even the robust flames of a campfire. Some of the other changes with this edition include DX12 Ultimate support, including DXR 1.1 and variable rate shading, GPU FP16 support, and thousands of optimized shaders, support for DLSS 2.0, addition of the FOV or field of view slider in the main game option, so you can customize that as you want, as well as full 4K textures added to the packages. And of course, lastly, further bug fixing and a polish pass. So the game feels almost perfect. I played throughout the entire thing. I never hit a single bug, graphical, gameplay, or otherwise. And if all of that isn't enough, if you own a PC version of the game, this is actually just a free update. You don't have to pay a dime to upgrade your current version of the game to the Enhanced Edition. You can just download, install, and play on the Epic Games or Steam or any other platform offering this title. Or if you do not currently own the game, you can purchase it on Steam for $39.99. Or you could buy the Gold Edition, which includes the 2 story DLCs, for $64.98. I will have a link in the description for the base game on Steam, for your convenience. This is not an affiliate link, and I get literally no kickback, so don't worry, I'm not trying to scam you, I'm just trying to help you out. Lastly, I want to talk about the PC specs so you know if you can even handle this game. The minimum recommended equipment that you will need to reliably get 1080p, 60 frames per second is Windows 10, an 8-core CPU, 8 GB of RAM, and either an NVIDIA RTX 2070 or RTX 3060. Or AMD RX 6700 XT. That is the minimum that the game requires to get a solid experience out of the PC Enhanced Edition, and to get the full extent of its ray tracing abilities. If you want top-of-the-line 4K 60 FPS, you'll need the same CPU, but you're going to need 16 GB of RAM, and no graphics card other than the RTX 3090 is going to cut it. As far as my personal experience, what I played this game on, I have 32 GB of high-speed RAM, I have an i9 9900 CPU, and I have the RTX 2080 Ti. So I was able to play the game at 1440p 60 frames per second very, very easily. And I was also able to play it at 4K and reliably get 30 frames per second. So most modern PC builds should be able to run the game pretty well. But given how beefy the 4K textures are, you really need to be running top-of-the-line specs if you want to experience them fully. But honestly, that's it for the review. I think the game is an excellent game that a lot of people have slept on since release, and if you haven't tried it, I definitely recommend it if this type of game is anywhere near your wheelhouse. I would honestly rate it as a 7.5 or 8 out of 10. And there are honestly not many games that I rate higher than this one. So that's an excellent score. And especially considering the barrier for entry is currently $40 on Steam if you haven't bought it, or free if you already have it, I would say that getting the PC Enhanced Edition is almost a no-brainer if you like story-driven, first-person shooters with very light horror elements, and a survival crafting system very similar but perhaps slightly more forgiving than The Last of Us. So, thanks for watching, I hope you enjoyed this review or found it useful, and if you do buy the game or upgrade your existing version for free, I hope you genuinely enjoy it as much as I have. Thanks for watching another Dare to Game video. If you liked this video, please leave a like and a comment. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to the channel. If you like my content and would like to support this channel, consider becoming a member today for as little as $1.99 a month. It makes a huge difference. But in any case, thanks for watching and have a nice day. I'll see you next time.